I first would like to thank the committee for inviting me to come to the beautiful state of Texas. And I'm Bill Butts, and on October 13, 1975, I became a retired alcoholic. Hi, everybody. For those of you that's here for your first meeting, for those of you that don't know if this is your first meeting or not, for those of you that don't give a doggone if this is your first meeting or not, for those of you that think you're at the Super Bowl, I just want to tell you that I'm glad to be here. I'm a drunk, I'm glad to be anywhere. How about doing something for them? Turn to that person next to you and tell them I love you. Come on. Now, if you had to say I love you to the person next to you and he happened to be the same sex that you are, don't worry, be happy. We're going to talk about alcoholism tonight. You can solve them other problems somewhere else. I got to lay this one on you. Joe came home, found another man asleep in his bed. The first thing he done, ran in the closet and got his shotgun, came back, aimed at the man and his wife, said, wait a minute. Before you shoot this man, you need to know something about him. The drunk say, you better hurry up and talk, woman, I'm going to shoot him. She said, wait a minute, those shoes you got on your feet, you know who bought those shoes? Drunk say, who? The man in the bed, he bought the shoes. The car that you drive every day, he pays the notes on it. He puts the gas in that doggone car. The drunk say, I'm going to shoot him anyhow. I ain't got no business in my bed. She said, I got one more thing to tell you. One more thing to tell you, and you shoot him if you want to. You know that half a gallon of liquor that's sitting on a coffee table waiting for you every morning you get up? The drunk said, well, what about it? She said, the drunk, the guy right there in the bed, he bought that half a gallon of liquor. The drunk said, well, cover him up. Don't let him catch cold. We're going to have a good time today. I can identify with a woman. You cover this man up. Because this man is my survival. This man is the only way that I can make it through the day. I can relate to that. I remember the time that that man in that bed that bought that half a gallon of liquor, that man was my God. So woman, if he needs a massage, if he needs petting, whatever he needs, you take care of him because he's mine. You don't know how good I feel to be among all you people. The people that taught me that I come here and I get something, I take it and I give it to somebody else. Ain't that something? A girl named June gave me something in high school. I gave it to a girl named Sarah. We ain't spoke to each other in 30 years. I took my first drink at a very early age, and I haven't forgot to this day the effects of that drink. I went down, seemed like dynamite blew up. Made me feel like I had the left hook of Mike Tyson, the strength of Paul Allison, the wisdom of Albert Einstein, and later on it made me a bigger fool than Evel Knievel. But I thought for sure when I took that first drink, I found a friend. This is it. Anytime I need to be somebody other than Bill Butts, just take a drink, and that was it. You know what? We used to have those little high school dances. You could always spot Bill Butts. He was the guy that stood over the corner. When no way the guy saw him, he was going to walk up to some girl and say, hey, may I have this dance? But after I become a practicing alcoholic, if you let me slip out to that 40-folder man with those stolen Oldsmobile hubcaps on and reach in the glove compartment, turn up the ball, I go back in and I dance with the men. It didn't make me no good. This is what I needed, but I never dreamed that alcohol was one day going to stop doing for me and start doing to me. I got kicked out of 3 high schools in the city of Atlanta because of my alcohol behavior. My mother, let me talk a minute about her. I don't talk too much about my father. Anytime you got a father that said that If I knew you was gonna go up to be the pile you are now that made your mother swallow a brick and bust your brains out. You don't talk about your father when he says things like that. But I talk about my mother because my mother did not intend for me to be in Beaumont, Texas, standing up in front of you people and saying, my name is Bill Butts and I'm an alcoholic. I'm supposed to be up here saying my name is Bill Butts and I'm an astronaut, not an alcoholic. My mother prepared me as a young child when she put me in a private school. When I was 6 years old, put me in this private school so I could be among people, indistinct people that was going to be something in life. One of my classmates was the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, Maynard Jackson. I saw him about 2 years ago and I asked him, when the hell did you go wrong? My mother was going to make something out of me or bust. No matter what it took, she was going to do it. Because I was not supposed to be an alcoholic. After getting kicked out of 3 schools there in the city of Atlanta, she sent me up to Chicago, Illinois, so I could live and ain't married. So I could finish my high school education. Let me explain why I'm smiling so much when I said I'm going to live with ain't married and I'm going to Chicago. One thing, Chicago got more liquor stores than they got people. And I was going to Chicago to live with ain't married. This was the same woman gave me my first cigarette when I was 8 years old. She used to twist the cap off that old tailor boss. She said, Bill, get a glass. It's okay. I love they married to death. I had another aunt I used to visit in the summer, and she lived in the little old house. She made me come in when the sun went down, wouldn't let me drink, wouldn't let me smoke. I hated her guts. I hated anybody that was decent. Anybody that wasn't a drunk, anybody that was worth anything, I hated. I wanted the whole world to be like me, a bum. I finished Marshall High in Chicago, Illinois, and I came back to Atlanta, and I created another disease. It's called idolism. Let me explain that. Idolism is when you stand on the corner with some more drunks and you talk about things like, how many square feet in a 747 airplane? Who cares? Or either we talk about politics. Somebody say, you know what, Nixon wasn't no good when he was the governor of Tennessee. I knew that he was born in Chattanooga. Or we talk about religion, somebody when Abel got stuck with a cane or something like that. But this is what you call idolism. Drunks standing on the corner talking about something they don't know anything about. I thought I was out of the woods when I finished Marshall High in Chicago, Illinois, but Mom, there she is, got something else for me to do. Called me in her bedroom one day and she said, sit down on the bed, and this is what popped out of her mouth. She said, you finished high school, now you are going to college. Well, during that time, all my friends had finished high school, they drive these new cars. I want a new car. Mom told me this, tell you what, if you will go to college, I'll buy you a brand new car. Isn't that something? Mom bought me a solid white convertible Bonneville, and off I went down to Tallahassee, Florida to enroll in Florida A&M University. A drunk with a brand new car going to get an education. Something ain't right. Pulled up on that campus, got registered. Pulled up on the main drag of the campus there, parked that big, beautiful Bonneville right in front of the administration office, and I looked 2 blocks down the street and saw some of the biggest, prettiest legs I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Cranked up that Bonneville and pulled down and rolled up next to her, and I said the words that we men know that will get next to women. One word we say before we say anything. We say, See, it just done something to you and it just did. And the next word that flew out of my mouth was, what's your name? She said, my name is Billy Cheeks. I said, well, get in the car. Your name's Cheeks, my name's Butts. Let me tell you something about Florida A&M University. They don't tolerate drunks. I was guilty. They don't tolerate people just ride around the campus in the winter with the top down. They don't tolerate those kind of things. That went school number 4. At this point, I took my first inventory. Alcohol wasn't in it. You were. People, places, things, hubcaps on bulldozers didn't make no difference. You all had a problem. If my mom just get off my back and my father quit cussing me out and call me all those dirty names, you know what? Whatever this problem is, I'm gonna kick it. You watch. Tomorrow it's gonna be different. And it was. It was worse. Oh boy. After taking this inventory, I said to myself, you know what, Turkey? You've never been disciplined in your life. Maybe you go into the United States Army, maybe where people can tell you when to get up, when to go to bed, when to walk, when to quit talking, when to just take over your whole life. Maybe this is the answer. It wasn't the first night up Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I got locked up for being drunk and disorderly and fighting in the PX. That wasn't the answer. The Army's not the answer. Army's not the problem. Me either. But it's something, and I'm going to find it out. Not today, but tomorrow. Something's got to give. Do you all detect some type of insanity right about now? You know, I had to get into the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous to find out that I'm not only a drunk, I'm insane. I used to think that anybody that got into bed fully dressed to keep from putting on their clothes the next day had plenty of sense. My mother used to say, son, won't you make up your bed? I said, why? I'm going to get back in it tonight. And I got in the fellowship and you all told me I got a problem. Anyhow, let's get back in the Army for a minute. From Fort Jackson, South Carolina, the Army decided to send me down to Fort Gordon, Georgia, where they tried to teach me how to install telephones and repair. I didn't have time to go to those classes, because every time that sergeant, he batted his eyes. I was back in Tallahassee, Florida. I had to catch up with Miss Billy Cheeks. I was in love. Which if you were drunk in nothing but a misunderstanding between two fools. We don't fall in love, we take women as hostage. Come here, you mine. Forever. One day I went into the mess hall down at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and the sergeant ran up to me and said, Bill, you know what, you're the luckiest soldier ever signed up to come into the Army. And I looked up at him, I said, Sarge, what you mean? He said, you know what, I saw your orders this morning, and you were going to the most beautiful post in the United States. It's called Presidio, and it sits right in the heart of San Francisco, California. Big time Bill Butts going to California. I got out there San Francisco, went out to Presidio, and it was just like the sergeant said, the most beautiful post I ever seen. And San Francisco, a gorgeous city, the Golden Gate Bridge, the cable cars, and all those hills and all those things out there. Just fantastic. But there is a section of San Francisco that I fell in love with, and it's called North Beach. I wish you could see the people that hung out on North Beach back in the 60s. They walked around with these long gowns on, with big flowers printed into them and love wrote across the back. And they wore these little bitty sunglasses. And I like what they call themselves. Beatniks. What a name. All my life I've been trying to be a part of some kind of group, and now I can become a beatnik. When I bought my long gown and had the big flowers put on it, love walked across the back, I bought me some sandals and the little bitty sunglasses. One night we was walking down the main drag where all the beatniks hang out, and we saw this crowd. And right in the middle of the crowd, there was a guy plucking a big bass fiddle, but it had no strings on it. And everybody was standing around singing and popping their fingers. Popping their fingers to the guy playing the bass fiddle with no strings on it. I popped my fingers. 2 nights later, I found out why I couldn't hear him plucking on that bass fiddle. When one of the beatniks called me up in the alley and he handed me this little bitty cigarette. That's what you needed to hear. Hand me this little bitty cigarette. You know, one of them pocket rockets. And I stuck my first joint of marijuana in my mouth and I sucked in the smoke, and my beatnik friend, he said, "Hold it in, Bill, hold it in." And I noticed they had a new way of talking when they passed the marijuana stick around, like, "Yeah." I held the smoke in and I held it in, and I noticed the car slowed down. And people walk slow. You remember me telling you that I was going to find the answer? I found it, doggone it. Now I don't have to drink this stinking stuff no more. All I got to do is smoke dope. As a Friday night speaker stated, I know this is the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous also. But I put this in my story to make a point. I found out that switching from alcohol to drugs was just like changing seats on the Titanic. Just as cunning, just as baffling. It was just like the drink. Just like the song, one kiss led to another. You just keep on smoking it, and you just keep on saying, "Yeah." One night the beatniks, they took me to a coffee shop and they introduced me to 3 well-dressed fellas wearing shark skin suits and alligator shoes and driving big Lincoln Continentals. And they sat down and they explained to me how I could become a part of their black market ring, which was selling drugs to the soldiers that was coming back from the Far East. Now my situation at that time, I'm cost addicted. I make $108 per month in the Army, and I got this that masquerades as a brain. I call it Captain Hero. Because anytime I need to make a major decision, he's there. He jumps out of the sky and say, "This looks like a job for Captain Hero." He's there. So when they say, "Bill, Do you want to start selling drugs? What popped out of his mouth was, when do you want me to start, doggone it? The heck with the consequences. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For about 3 months, Bill Butts was a big-time dope pusher around the San Francisco Beaumont district. I guess you're wondering, why did I say for only 3 months? I'll tell you, because the only thing that a drunk can do right is get drunk. He can't sell no dope. He'll use half of it, the rest he'll sell to the police. And when you sell drugs to the police, you got a problem. A big one right there. The guy I sold it to, who happened to be a city detective, locked me up, kept me overnight. The MPs came out from Presidio. They took me and put me in the stockade, and I sat there 3 months waiting on my general court-martial. We ain't gonna slap you on the back of the wrist this time, sucker. Went to this general court-martial, and they told their side, and I told my lies. And then this major, he stood up and he said, Bill Butts, you are now dishonorably discharged from the United States Army, and you're to serve time at the USDB, which stands for United States Disciplinary Barracks, Leavenworth, Kansas. You always wanted to be big time, Bill Butts. Big time now. You going to jail, turkey. Never forget that cold January 15th day we pulled up in front of those tall walls, and they marched us. It was right at mess time, and they marched us into this huge mess hall. I sat down next to a guy seemed to be twice my age, and I leaned over and asked him, after he told me his name was Ace and he was from Cincinnati, Ohio, I said, how much more time you got, Ace? He said, I'm short timing now. I got 17 more years. I said, oh my God. This man's a criminal. Acceptance. Always had a problem with acceptance. Ace and I was on the same bus. We just got off at different times. We both criminals. Let me briefly tell you something about Leavenworth. They got a trade school there. If you want to go learn how or pick up some trade, or if you want to continue your education, they got a school there for you. You got the musical background, they'll put you in this band room. Well, in high school, I used to sing with this little doo-wop group. So I went in, I signed up to learn how to play guitar. And I signed up to continue my education, take some college courses. So I had 4 hours in the band room, 4 hours of college courses. I always did want to learn how to play guitar, but I never had the time to learn how to play guitar. I got it now. Said to myself, when I leave here, I can teach Chet Atkins 2 or 3 things about a guitar. So I went to school all day, and at night, I wrote Miss Billy Cheeks every night. Still in love, y'all. One day I went to the mess hall, and they had mail call. And I got this letter from Miss Billy Cheeks. And down at the bottom looked like she had this black marker, because she wrote on there in big words, surprise, I will meet you in Kansas City, Missouri on your release date. Love, Billy. I mentioned all these extra things that they had at Leavenworth, but I forgot to mention one thing that they didn't have. They didn't have you. The Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I forgot to share with you that the whole time I was in Leavenworth, although they had just as much drugs on the inside of the wall and just as much liquor on the inside of the walls they had on the outside, I didn't touch not one drop. But when I quit drinking, I leave this home. And I've got to fill it up with something. If you all had been there, I could have filled it up with spirituality. So even though I don't drink, that hole was there. And it's just a matter of time that I'm going to fill it up with the same garbage that I poured out. Just a matter of time. You want an example? I wrote Miss Billy Cheeks back. When you get to Kansas City, bring me 1/2 a gallon of Old Taylor, 100 proof, love, Bill. Because of that hole. I got to Leavenworth Kansas City train station. Looked up at the top of the steps, and there she stood with this big brown paper sack. And up those steps I went. Happiest time of my life. I was grinning so much I looked like a piano with lips. Ran up those steps and grabbed the bag. I'll see the woman later. 11 days later, Miss Billy Cheeks was my wife. When we departed from Kansas City, I went back to Atlanta. She went to the Middle East. That's Detroit. Now, I went to Atlanta to do what a normal husband is supposed to do. He's supposed to get a job, get an apartment, then you send for your wife. I'm a drunk. We don't do it that way. When we got the apartment and who got the job was her when she showed up in Atlanta. See, I had to go back to my old Playmates and Playground, find out how many more square feet had they put in a 747 airplane. Then the children start coming. God knows, I hope I'm getting ready to mess up some parents' drinking. Because every time I talk about this, it gets next to me. When my son, Sanchez, was born, it looked like I would have had sense enough to realize this kid's gonna need a father. He's gonna need somebody to teach him how to tie his shoes and how to say his ABCs and say the Lord's Prayer and ride a bicycle or throw a baseball. Then the twins came along, Michael and Michelle. People, I just couldn't be a father, and I couldn't be a husband. And it hurts now. My kids live in Detroit, and I go up and see them about twice a year. And sure, we run up and we hug each other, but we both can feel this wall. I hope I just messed up some parents drinking. God knows I hope I did. It hurts. Pretty soon, Billy realized she'd married this drunk that was going to always be a drunk. She packed up those kids and she took them to Detroit. I remember when she stepped up on the platform on the train, she looked back at me and she said, Bill, when I come back to Atlanta, it's going to be for your funeral. And the way you living, that ain't for all, buddy. She went to Detroit and I knew only one place to go, back to my old Playmates and Playgrounds. Go back to the bombs because I'm a bum. Go back to the scums because I'm a scum. Go back to the alley because that's all I know is the alley. I guess a year and a half went by and I jumped on the phone and I called her long distance and I say, honey, babe, listen. I miss you and I miss them kids. What do you think about me coming to Detroit? She said, Bill, we miss you also. There's a lot of jobs here in Detroit. You can come up whenever you want to. But buddy, you leave your drinking in Atlanta. And I'm meeting that, Bill. I jumped on this Greyhound bus, and my next stop was Detroit, Michigan. I got a job as a blast furnace operator for Ford Motors. A year went by and I made a down payment on a little small house. Made a down payment on a brand new car, became a coach of a little league softball team, and I used to feel like I was 20 foot tall when I would put in my driveway and those kids just holler, "Mr. Bill, hurry up and change clothes and come on down to the ball field. We're waiting on you, Mr. Bill." I didn't drink for those 2 years, but people, I still had that hold. I still didn't know you people exist. I didn't know you would take me in and do something with me. I didn't know you had the answers. So you keep on saying to yourself, "I'll just do what I got to do." And you only know one thing to do, that's drink liquor. I filled up that hole at a barbecue on the 4th of July when somebody said, "Bill, you ain't no alcoholic." Doesn't that sound good? Excuse, that's all we need. He said, "Bill, you ain't no alcoholic. You just ain't drinking right. Won't you do like I do, Bill? I just got me one can of beer and that's all I'm going to drink." And then this clicked on again. And he said, "Bill, do like he's doing. Get you one beer." But I forgot about my track record. I ain't never drank one or nothing. It used to be a sign in Detroit, and it read, "Drink Canada dry." I said, "I'll try, damn it, I'll try." I drank that one beer, and like Paul Harvey says, you know the rest of the story. I lost that job. I lost my automobile, and the wife, she held on to the house by working 2 full-time jobs. Somebody on that first job whispered something in her ear to make her not go to that second job. She had to come home and not whisper it to me, but yell it at me. "Wake up, you no good lousy bum. Have you ever heard of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous?" I looked at him, I said, "Hell no." Her next words were, "You will tonight." She said, "I got a coworker in the fellowship, and they're having a meeting right down there at the corner of Joy Road and Schaefer, and I want you down there tonight at 8 o'clock. If you don't go to that meeting, I want you to get out of my house." Why do women say that so nasty? Well, that night, about 10 minutes after 8, I walked in, and there you were, you bunch of phonies. I said to myself, did my wife have to call all these people down here to talk to me? Who in the devil do you think I am? You people are looking like an evening in Paris, and I look like one night in Beirut. And you gonna try to make me think that you are alcoholic? Who you think? Do you know this is Bill Butts? But really turned me off. I passed by the coffee pot, and here's this huge guy. And he threw his arms open, and he said, "I love you." Well, I went on in, I sat down. Some funny-looking woman read something they call High Works, or some funny-looking guy, weirdo, read something about some traditions and all that garbage. I say, who do they think I am? Do they think I'm going to sit in here and you go stop me from drinking liquor? Got to be sick. I don't need you people. See, getting sober is just like Delta Airlines. It's ready when you are. And I wasn't ready. See, I hadn't been in enough jails. I hadn't hurt my family enough. I hadn't lost enough jobs. What I needed was 2 blocks up Joy Road. There was a liquor store, and that's where I went. Wife kept her promise. Out in that snow I went. And then, well, but one place for me to go. Back to Atlanta to my mother. back to my old playmates, playgrounds, walking up and down the street, panhandling. But I needed those coins people used to drop in my hand. I was sort of like the drunk, standing in the restroom counting his wine money, accidentally dropped a dime of it in the commode. He looked down at the dime, he said, I'm a bum, I'm a drunk, I ain't no good, but I'll be doggone if I'm gonna stoop low enough to stick my hand down in that commode and pick up that dime. He thumped the quarter in, he said, I will for 35 cents. Real not dumb, she's great. On a Monday morning, I went up to Miss Tucker's wine store, like I've done so many mornings. And I walked in and I ordered my pint of wine, and I went up behind Seller Brothers Funeral Home and I twisted the cap off of that top, thumped it over behind one of the ambulances. I sat down on the stoop there and I turned that bottle up. And I waited for it to do what it was supposed to do. It's supposed to stop my hands from shaking. It's supposed to stop the bumblebees from jumping up and down in my midsection. But I sat there and I just kept shaking. And then the insanity said, Bill, you just having a bad day. Just go get you another bottle. You'll be okay. Went back in Miss Tucker's wine store, and while I was standing there, a drunk named Steve, he said, Bill, have you heard of Fulton County Alcoholic Treatment Center? They taking drunks in free over there and they're detoxing them. I remember asking him, when was he going? So I purchased bottle number 2 and I went back to Seller Brothers Funeral Home and turned that bottle up, and my hand just kept shaking. Much to my surprise, when I came out that alley, my mother was parked at the curb and she rolled down the window and she said, son, are you ready to go home? I said, Mom, listen, run over at 265 Boulevard to Fulton County Alcoholic Treatment Center. And I remember her exact words, seem like I can hear it now. Thank God. She took me over there, and at that time, you could only stay in a detox center 5 days. Wasn't like what you got now. 10 days, 15 days, 28 days, 16 years. You know what I'm talking about? Some of these places you run in, you pick up a white chip, you go get drunk, go back in the next day, come back out, pick up a white chip. Picking up white chips is okay. But picking up white chips just like gonorrhea. There ain't nothing to be ashamed of, but you ain't supposed to keep on getting it. You're going to quit sometime. And I saved my 5 days, and as I was going out the door, my counselor said, Bill, don't forget we got an AA meeting here tonight. Well, I went back that night because I didn't have nowhere else to go. Same people. You know, all y'all look alike. I don't care where you go. At the end of the meeting, somebody got up and said, one's in on trial way of life, come up, pick up a white chip. I sat there. 2 or 3 more people got up, so I got up. Then got up and wouldn't be sober today. I got up there and I got me a white chip. And for 11 months, I hung around the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, understanding. I said, around it. Let me explain that. First thing you all told me that I need a sponsor. Who, me? I don't need some old fool telling me how to live. I forgot I never seen an old fool. You don't get to be old being no fool. They told me I need a big book. Who's gonna buy a book that's got no jokes or pictures in it? 12-step call, I used to say, I got mine, let him get his the best way he can. Do you know who this is? This is big time Bill Butts. If I ever run for governor, you better vote for me. That's the type of attitude. I'm gonna be president of this group. within the tradition that they say it's not supposed to be governed. We'll rewrite it. 11 months around the fellowship, and being around the fellowship, you can be guaranteed that you're going to get drunk. I'm a living example. I wouldn't pick me a speaker, somebody to chair the meeting. Then another thing popped in my mind. Bill, you've been working almost a week. Maybe you can cut your boss out of 1 week vacation. You got a pair of khakis and a pair of blue jeans and a 61 Corvair. You doing good. Why don't you go up to Detroit and show that stupid woman what she is to boast? Don't go up there and make her cry hard out. All those wonderful years I gave her. Jumped on the Greyhound bus, but somebody else got on. Little bitty man, about that tall. His name was Thinking. He sat right down next to me, and he and I, we started talking. He said, you know what, Bill, or what? Anybody got 2 pair of Levi's and 1 pair of khakis and been working 11 months and got a 61 Corvette that leaks oil, ain't no alcoholic. No kidding. Maybe I'm a social drinker now. He said, why don't you get off the bus, run across the street, get you half a pint of liquor, a 7-Up and a cup, and make that liquor last 731 miles, the distance from Atlanta, Georgia to Detroit, Michigan. Okay. Got the half pint, cup of ice. Got on the bus. 731 miles. I'm gonna make this half a pint last. I was out looking in Chattanooga, that ain't but 119 miles. I bought 2 pints of liquor from a man that was loading the bus in Lexington, Kentucky. When I got to Detroit, that woman saw exactly what she had missed. Nothing. She said, you left here drunk. Here you come back a drunk. I went there 1 week and stayed 2. My family had to chip in, buy me a one-way ticket, a pint of wine, half pack of pale milk. I might have been in DTs, but I thought I heard my children saying, thank God, Greyhound, he gone. Something happened to me on that bus coming back from Detroit. I was sitting there and I turned that pint of wine bottle up and I left just a few drops in the bottle. I looked at those few drops, and I guess the other passengers thought I was crazy when I screamed out, God help me. God and I had one of the biggest arguments on the back of a Greyhound bus you ever heard. I explained to him in case he had forgot at least. In case he had forgot, I was told that he was the same person that gave sight to the blind and made the lame walk. And I told him, I said, I don't care if you're on the bus, if you sit on the throne, if you're Buddha or whatever, I'm sick and tired of the way I'm living. I said, God, please take this and do something with it. When the bus pulled in downtown Atlanta, instead of me going home like the other passengers, I went back to Fulton County Alcoholic Treatment Center. I told you that they said that they only detox you once. I went over there that night, and James Daniel, he was security guard, and I rang the bell, and he came and he said, Bill, you can't come in. I said, James, if you don't open these doors, I'll go somewhere and get some dynamite and blow the whole place up. James opened the door and I went upstairs, and the nurse gave me a bed and another 5 days of being detoxed. Well, that Friday came, my release date, and that counselor didn't have to catch up with me and tell me about Alcoholics Anonymous, tell me about the meeting that night, because I was there when you people showed up. I put out the chairs and put out the ashtrays and made the coffee. And when you got there, I was shaking hands. God, I love this program. You all told me I need a sponsor. During those 11 months that I was around the fellowship, I used to watch a little short, gray-headed man. He's chairing a meeting up at that big meeting in the sky now. Give him hell up that, John. I know y'all. And I walked up to John that night and said, John, I want you to be my sponsor. See, when I came into the fellowship, John had 24 years of sobriety. And I walked up to him and I said, John, I want you to be my sponsor, but I want you to tell me one thing. How in the devil did you stay sober for 24 years? He said, I didn't drink food. That does something to your ego. Said to myself, I got a sponsor now. I think that I'm in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't think I'm around anymore. But what now? What do you do now? And John say, Bill, it's simple. You follow directions. You say you got to stay away from those playmates and playgrounds. I don't know why in the devil we have to go back to the bootlegger and tell him we quit. He said, Bill, you got to stop admitting that you're an alcoholic. He said, I heard you done the whole 11 months saying that you're Bill Butts and you admit you're an alcoholic. He said, well, what you doing about gut level? I said, John, what you talking about? He said, are you accepting it? Are you accepting it from gut level? I said, John, I don't know, during those 11 months, I sat around in the meetings and I tried my best to figure out a way to stay drunk and sober at the same time. Is that what you're talking about? He said, that's it, Bill. He said, ain't but one way to do it. He said, you can't dig a half of a hole. You got to dig a whole hole. It's just that simple. People, I'm right at the point where I'm supposed to tell you what it's like now. I think you've experienced all this. It's the word marvelous, wonderful. Those words don't fit what this program has given us. But what I want to do, I want to share a spiritual experience, if you please. I want all of you to go with me now on this trip. The weekend of June 10th, 1982, I had the opportunity to go up to Akron, Ohio, the Founders Day festivities. I want you to go with me. They had some of the best speakers I ever heard, and some of the best meetings I ever been to up there at the University of Akron, where they held the function. The best time I had was when we got on the tour bus. Our first stop was at the hospital where they, back in 1959, when they set up the first detox wards. Can you imagine those people only had 8 beds? Some cities got 8 hospitals for us now, but they only had 8 beds. Then the bus went on around by the hotel where Bill Wilson stood. Seemed like I could see him standing in that lobby. He and those people in the bar having such a good time dancing and popping their fingers. Bill, thank you for going to that phone. We got back on the bus and we went to this cemetery. Walked down the hill till we came to this tombstone, and right in the middle of it, it had the word Smith. Dr. Bob's grave. Can you picture a busload, not children, but adults, standing around this giant of a man's monument and crying like babies? I was one of them. I'm not ashamed of it. And I stood there and I thanked him. I said, and as the tears began to flow, when I thanked him, it wasn't the same tears that I shed when I had to spend the night in an abandoned 51 Pontiac in Detroit, Michigan. It wasn't the tears that I shed when one night I walked into the house and my kids found an excuse to go to bed when they was looking at their favorite TV program. Not those tears. But it was those gut level tears that tells me that if I stick with you, and if I still follow directions, the sky's the limit, I wouldn't have a better life. Last night, I think it was, they asked, was there anybody here with a weak sobriety? And I saw quite a few stand up. I know this fellowship is based on attractions rather than promotion, but sometimes I just have to break the rules. I'm sorry. I want to talk to those people that only had a weak sobriety. If you want me to, I'll get right down there on my knees and I'll beg you. I'll beg you to give this fellowship a chance to get into your life, get into your heart. There are going to be times when you're going to say this program's not going to work for me, but just keep coming back. There are going to be times when you're going to find somewhere else you'd rather be, but keep coming back. You got to stay sober long enough to get sober. To be in this fellowship is the best feeling that a drunk could have. I'm just about to blow up right now. I'm just about to blow up. God knows I love you. Thank you.